What's up, everybody? I almost forgot to do this today. I'm not used to doing this evening stuff. Sat down after dinner and realized that I haven't talked to you guys today. What's up, Jim? Give everybody a few minutes here to jump in. Night owl. It's 8 o'clock at night. Yeah, just finished Family Feud. So it was an interesting day today. I got Courtney out of the house. She's not been feeling well. And it was a beautiful day earlier. So we took a ride. I had to go over to the hatchery in Constantia and talk to those guys over there. And I went over and met with them today about tagging fish for the Derby. And got talking with them for not too long, 15, 20 minutes. Was pretty cool. It was a nice conversation. They're going to tag the fish for us. I'm going to be there. They said I could help. And he said they'd even show me how to do one. So it'll be sometime in April when that time comes, when they get the nets out. They usually do the tagging. He said the last day of the netting, so the fish aren't sitting in the tank too long. But so they said I can help. They'll show me how. They said I can film or do a live or whatever that day. And then also they said I could be there, when they go and put the fish back in the lake. And my goal is to have the three fish, have one put in each, so if you split the lake up into three pieces, you got the west end, the east end, and the middle. I want to put one in each, physically put one in each. And so I don't, they don't, who knows where they go or where they stay or how far they travel or where they were from before they were netted, all that stuff. I don't know. But I just thought it'd be cool to say, okay, well, we physically put one of these tagged fish back in each of the three sections. So I thought that was cool. And the guys over there were great. Like I say, we sat and chatted for a few minutes. And, here's a funny thing. On the way over there, Courtney said to me, she goes, so let's see. I mean, she's only lived here for 6 years. I've taken her to the hatchery in Altmar up to the Salmon River and looked around up there and see the fish in the fish ladder and all that. And then this fall we went to Carpenter's Brook, which supplies all of the stream trout for the area. And she's been in the, we've certainly stopped over and around. When there's walleyes over there. She said to me, she goes, well, why is there a hatchery for walleyes? And I'm like, and I started to answer and I go, and I had to stop and think. And I'm like, well, I assume walleyes are indigenous to this lake. And I also assume that they would be, as a warm water species, would be self-sustainable. We don't stock anything else in this lake, and we have, healthy, abundant populations of perch and panfish and, smallmouth and largemouth bass and certainly pickerel. And so I was like, that's a great question. So when I got in there and I was talking to those guys, I asked them the same question. And their answer to me was something that I didn't think of really. And I guess I also didn't know this. I guess it makes sense, although I assume Chittenango probably gets as healthy a run of walleye spawning that Scriba Creek does. And I don't know the age of that dam that they put in at Scriba just above the hatchery, but he said that The reason the hatchery was put in was after the dam was put in Scriber Creek, because before that those fish could go for miles and miles up that creek and spawn in the springtime. And he said you took that away from, I don't know how many fish would use that creek. And I didn't realize that was the correlation. So when Scriber Creek was dammed, it destroyed so much spawning habitat that the state had to then go put a hatchery in to make up for it. Now, granted, Oneida walleyes that are raised in Constantia go other places within the state. I've always known that. And I know they raise a few other oddball species in there. I think they were doing sturgeon for a little while, and I think they do paddlefish too. But I did not realize that the loss of spawning habitat from Scriber Creek solely was that detrimental to the walleye populations in the lake. So I thought that was fascinating, and you think you know everything. I mean, you never know everything, but she asked me that question and I stopped right in mid-sentence because, I mean, usually I can come up with an answer for most anything. I was like, I don't really know why. I mean, I thought a couple different things like, oh, geez, maybe they, I don't know. I had a couple different theories that I could have said and it could have possibly been right, but I really didn't know. So that was interesting today at the hatchery. And the 20 minutes I was there, I had a pretty great conversation and it was interesting. And so then I said to those guys, I said, okay, I said, so let me ask you a couple questions, off the record, so to speak. I said, you hear these stories of monster walleyes in every year's netting, and they're like, yeah, we get some big ones, and he goes, we get a lot of fish. Of course, now these are pre-spawn, so they're loaded with eggs, and I'm assuming in those big fish, when you start talking to fish over 25 inches, that egg cavity's got to be like this. And I'll bet you that could add pounds, 2-3 pounds maybe of egg weight at their peak ripest before they drop them. And he said last year they netted the biggest recorded fish in the last 50 years. Now, I don't know how far back that hatchery goes, but in the last 50 years, and it was 28 3/4 inches long, but it was 13.5 pounds. And I said, oh my God, that's huge. And I go, but there's you guys have never had one measure over 30 inches? He goes, no. He goes, I've never seen one measure over 29 inches. And I'm like, really? And he started telling me, he goes, the food base isn't really there to get them that big. And I'm thinking, really? I mean, the yellow perch alone in this lake aren't enough to feed those walleyes as much as they could possibly want, not to mention all of the other bait fish species that are in this lake. And he goes, well, part of it is size of their environment. And you think about it, I mean, Oneida Lake's not a pond. I mean, it's the largest inland body of water in New York State. It's 20, let's for round numbers, let's say it's 20 miles long and 6 miles wide. It's 120 square miles. That's a big body of water. And yet they still think of it as a small impoundment that doesn't allow those fish to really grow. And man, you think about that. My God, that takes a lot of water to grow a big fish. It must. I mean, I know what we get up on the St. Lawrence in Lake Ontario and the Great Lakes, and those are enormous puddles. I mean, it's hard to fathom. I remember back. What year was that flood, babe? Remember we went up north at 17? We went up. That was the year. That was the big year with the IJC deal. and there was water everywhere. And we went up north one day up to Southwick Beach, and we were going to walk on the beach. And the water was up into the sand dunes and water everywhere. I mean, and you think about how high that water was based on how many I'm like, so square miles of Lake Ontario surface area, and then you start multiplying that by cubic feet of water, the volume of water that was over and above what it normally was would have filled, Christ's sakes, 50 other lakes. So, I mean, I understand that the theory that the habitat is big, the predators are big. I just didn't think that they would consider Oneida small. Now, yet you think about that big New York State record smallmouth that came out of Cayuga Lake last summer. And if you said to me at the beginning of last year, there's going to be a new state record smallmouth, where'd it come from? I would have had to have said Lake Ontario / St. Lawrence River. Why wouldn't you? But it came out of Cayuga Lake. Now, Cayuga Lake is a finger lake, and it's not huge and expansive and sprawling. It's deep. It is extremely deep in places. But still, in total volume of water, I don't know if it's more than Oneida. I wouldn't think so. Maybe. I mean, I guess I could really do some homework and look at that, but I would have never thought that state record smallmouth was going to come out of Cayuga. And that's not a slight against Cayuga Lake. I just assumed that it would be from a bigger body of water. So I thought that conversation at the hatchery was very interesting. Very interesting. I love that kind of stuff, and I got talking to the guys. I've been going to that hatchery since I was a little kid. I mean, every spring, a week or two or sometime in April before opening of walleye season, Gramp took us up there for a ride and, had a picnic in the park or whatever. And when we were kids, and we'd look at the fish in the creek. So, I mean, I've been going there my whole life. I've taken my daughter there, I took Courtney there. I think, it's one of those great things in the springtime to go and watch and see all those fish. It's just, it's really an amazing thing of Mother Nature. But yeah, a ton of people with us, man. Must be, like I said, even though I almost forgot tonight, I don't mind doing this in the evening. It's nice to see everybody. There's a ton of people here. Let's see who's here. Jim Carker, Rick Menzel, Jim G. Got stuck on the Family Feud. Merlin, what's up, Wiz? Joe, I better put my glasses on. Joseph Zeski, hello. Hook and Eyes. Steve Harvey's the best. He's no Richard Dawson. That was the best. Courtney and I used to watch reruns on what channel? What was that we watched him on? Amazon Prime. We watched all the old Richard Dawson when he was the host back in I guess that was the early 80s. And it was hilarious. Like, he kissed every woman that came on. Didn't matter how old they were. Like, he's smooching 14-year-olds, and 85-year-olds. And everybody puckered up and wanted Richard to give him a big old kiss. And he kissed everybody right on the lips. God, imagine in COVID what would have happened with him during COVID. Holy crap. Kevin Stone, what's up, Sarge? Danny Diamond. Love that name. Vance Jones, ready for open water. Can't wait for Walleye Fest. Walleye Fest. Got the logo done today, finally. Got almost everything done. We got 2 days left until we go live. But it's coming together. We're waiting on a few more small things. Louis LaPlante. Louis, man, I haven't seen you or talked to you in ages since the River Rat, man. How you been, buddy? Jim Wild Brookies, Eric Wisniewski. Oh, Eric, you stayed awake this evening. Mike Urema, hey, got some new stuff to show you. I love new stuff. Carl Cap for I almost said good morning. Good evening. Gary Walters, how you doing? Chris Bryan, holy crap, I figured it out. What'd you figure out? Bob. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So you did what Courtney told you to do, and it worked, right? Awesome, obviously. That's awesome. Nice to have you. Bob Rourke. I did. Good evening. Chris is all happy with himself. Right on. Mary Burke, how are you? Jim G. Do the walleye get stocked out of state at all? I know that New York State, the Hatchery Constantia puts those walleyes in other places in the state. It wouldn't surprise me if they sold them to other states. I know they do that up at the hatchery in Altmar, and we're pretty fortunate in New York State. People can say a lot of negative things about the DEC and that kind of stuff, but our hatcheries are excellent when it comes to around the country. And our hatchery system, we figured out how to, the hatchery up in Altmar, they handle all the cold water species, the Pacific salmon, 3 species of Pacific salmon, steelhead, brown trout. And I know those get sold out of state to other municipalities and I think even to Canada. So it wouldn't surprise me if the walleyes do. I don't know that for sure. They get so thick in the creek next to apps that you can walk across them. Yeah, years and years ago when my daughter was little, God, she couldn't have been 5 or 6 years old. I took her up there one day and she was young enough that she wasn't really paying attention, shocker. And so I kneeled down on the edge of the creek and I go, honey, come here. And she walks over and I go, watch this. And I put my hand down in the water and I had to move fish out of the way to get my hand in the water. And I real carefully come up underneath one like this. I don't know, male or female. And I picked it up out of the water and she looked at me. She goes, oh, Daddy. I was like, I could have walked on water that day. She thought I was a hero, I don't think she fully grasped that there was another, 50,000 of them right next to it. But it is cool. It's cool to see. I mean, I used to guide caribou hunters up in the Arctic. And the first time I ever saw a herd of caribou come across a frozen reservoir, and there must have been, I don't really know how many animals there were, but thousands and thousands of them. You see something like that is just pure Mother Nature, and there's nothing that man is going to do to stop that movement. That's like those walleyes too. They're coming. The clock says it's time to go. They go. Dax Woods, nice to see you again, buddy. I guess that kind of makes sense. The other lakes where you see huge fish are also huge lakes. Yeah. You can only grow. I mean, I get that part. I'm just saying that I've never considered Oneida as a small lake. And it makes you wonder, like, how big is it by volume? Is it by square, by footprint? Like what crosses that line into big, to where you would expect big fish? I mean, not that our lake isn't awesome, because it is. But I mean, just imagine a healthy population of catchable 25 plus inches all the time. I mean, you'd be talking like they do on Rainy Lake or Leech Lake or Lake of the Woods, where every time you set the hook on the jig, it could be 30, or damn close. But we don't really have. I mean, we have that here, and that does happen. Not 30s, but it does happen with big fish. But It's like Walleye Fest. I was talking with Mike and Vinny yesterday, and what's it going to take to make the board? Well, obviously, if we get a whole lot of people out there, we start getting 5,000 anglers out there. I think it's going to drive that number up into the 27, 28 inch range, only because theoretically you would have that many lines in the water. You're gonna luck into some big ones along the way. Normal years, 25, 26 has got to be right there near the top. 27, I've seen years where it's been 28 that's won it, but I'm super curious to see what this year brings. With everybody and everything going on, super curious. Boy, wouldn't that be amazing if somebody broke a 30-incher in the Derby? We'd have to set up a whole new category. Just give them all the money. Riley McConnell, definitely not pouring concrete anytime soon now. Let's get some work done. Yeah, Riley. Yeah, I just submitted one estimate yesterday. I got another one to go do tomorrow, and the third one I got to write up. Second largest body of water entirely within a state's boundaries, second only to Salt Lake. No shit. That's pretty cool. Yeah, Oneida is a big lake. It just doesn't seem to be big enough, I guess. The depth of Oneida. I did not even think of that. That must also be a factor in how big they can grow. Of course. Of course. Where'd I go? I skipped here. Don Birdie, how you doing, buddy? Just looking it up quick. Apparently, Oneida is 0.331 cubic miles, and Cayuga is a whopping 2.27. Really? Perception is everything. Paul, how you doing, buddy, my Pennsylvania friend? John Burroughs, all the way from Florida. Jed Paulson, typically fishing. My man. Tell Courtney thanks. Chris Bryant says thanks for.
You're welcome. I'm glad it worked.
Yeah, she said you're welcome. Glad it worked. What we're talking about for all of you out there, because I know a lot of people have asked me this, and I said it yesterday too. But Chris and I were texting each other the other day, and he goes, "Man, I don't know what's going on." He goes, "I can't." He goes, "I never get notifications when you're going to go live, and I can't comment or anything like that because Chris was watching it through, what do you call it? Google, as opposed to the app. And even if you're on PC, yeah, I don't know. I'm a fisherman. But it worked. My wife, who's the genius, told Chris how to do it. He did it. It worked. Voila. Don Terry, how you doing, buddy? Larry Melnick finally got around to do live chat. Love your segments. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it. Pretty quick, we'll be back fishing again every day, and we'll do this out in the boat. You're so funny. Love your show. Well, if you insist. If you insist, then I must be funny. Hear that, honey? Said I'm funny. She's not listening. Oh, Louis LaPlante. I haven't talked to you in forever, and he rubs it right in my nose. He says, just got back from Key West. Fishing was great there. I could go for a little shorts and flip-flops fishing right now, I can tell you. Kevin Stone. So Kevin says Cayuga has 2.5 trillion gallons of water compared to 380 billion in Oneida. And a T is bigger than a B. So we just got fact checked. That's awesome. That's a sizable difference. I had no idea. No idea. Tim Graver, go Courtney. Nikolai, wow. Yeah, Chris makes a good point, and I'm not disparaging. I love my lake. I love it. I love it. I grew up here, But he said I have zero problem with the size of the walleye in our lake. One situation where I would prefer quantity over quality. If I want to fight a large or hard fighting fish, there are plenty of species. Sure, of course. And as a, you know, what is the deepest in feet of Oneida Lake? It's not much. I know there's a big hole out on the east end. I'm not going to tell you exactly what, but I don't think it touches 50. If it does, it's not much over that. If a 30-inch does show up, revert back to your conversation with the hatchery guys. Yeah. Watched a ton go up Canasarega a few years ago. It looked like a pack of shad swimming, but on a much larger scale. Yeah, and those eyes, those eyes hunt just like wolves in packs. There are school fish in every way, shape, or form. It's rare where you catch one, and there's not a pile of other ones there. Can the forage factor and maybe too many walleyes as is stunting? Well, I'm sure probably. Which would lead me to the question of what's the smallest lake where walleyes will get 30 inches? My guess is that would be Minnesota, somewhere out that way, Wisconsin. Somebody here, Ned Sellers, is telling me 60 foot in one spot. Michelle Love says my jigging arm is fixed. Good.
Oh, I was going to message her tomorrow. How's she feeling?
She says good. My jigging arm is fixed. Yeah, mine is too, I think, till I start jigging again.
I figured she'd be drugged up all night.
Kevin Fetter, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole, my friend, because I guess the honest to God truth is, I don't know. I don't even know how to say it. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. 55.
Oh, that's how deep Oneida Lake is?
Yeah. Finger Lakes have had some big ones, but those lakes have monies, alewives, and smelt, moon eyes. Jed Paulson, this is interesting. So Jed is the young man I met out on the lake this summer, who, tell me now, you're from Iowa because your dad's there. He says, my dad has caught a 30.5-inch walleye in a relatively small section of river in Iowa. What river, though? I mean, I would assume in Iowa, you're what? Is that the Mississippi or the Missouri? And maybe that changes things because it's moving water and sheer volume of food that gets flushed down through. I could see that being a different factor too. This stuff's interesting to talk about, though. I mean, how often would we all get together and talk about these kind of things, and all because of a conversation that was kind of random today at the hatchery. I really am looking forward to getting with those guys and doing an actual show. 55 out in front of Apps. I think one of the barges is in the 55-foot hole. Yeah, I've heard that before too. Sacandaga Lake area. That's on my list for this year to go out there. I've always wanted to fish Great Sacandaga and go and do a little pike fishing. And I heard they got pretty decent walleye fishing there too. Dax, I find this stuff fascinating. I love it. Your videos talking to the researcher were wicked cool too. Well, so I was talking to those guys today about talking to Jake, and a charter captain I worked for years ago, Carl Rathje. I didn't realize it'd been this long since he'd retired, but they said he retired back in 2014. But the times back in those days when I would mate for Carl on his big boat up there, he kept his boat up in Port Ontario. Between him and his wife, so his wife Maggie is, and I don't know if she still does it, Fish Wish Taxidermy. God, she used to do incredible work, and so she was a taxidermist and he was a fisheries biologist. She trained prize-winning Chocolate Labs or Chesapeake's, one of the two, and he had a charter boat on the side. So that was a pretty fishing and outdoor family. And the stories that Carl would tell from the hatchery and whatnot were outstanding. And the things that they'd seen and done, and that kind of stuff's really pretty cool. Where science hits the practicality point, and kind of that rubber meets the road place. That kind of stuff is pretty interesting. Let's see. Deep Spot is just east of Cleveland. I believe it used to be called the Mud Hole. And my buddy Mike, so his brother Paul was just chatting here a few minutes ago. Now Mike's on here. I'm gonna butcher your last name like everybody butchers mine, but it's Horchak. No, that was Welcome Back, Cotter. My PA boys. See those guys on the West End all the time. I love it. Did the hatchery provide any insight on when you should release the tag fish? It's going to be in April. I assumed that they did netting as soon as the ice went out, but they don't. He said we're watching daily when we start seeing fish coming up in the creek, and he goes, we'll look at them closely. We monitor up and down the creek all the way to the dam. He says as soon as you start seeing fish that are actively digging reds, then we go and we start our process. And he says from start to finish, from first net to last net, and all of the stripping and everything in between, he said it takes them about 7 days, maybe 8 at the most. And that's nonstop to get their quota. And he said it doesn't take them long. So in the last day or two of that, he said that's when any tagged fish that are going back in for any different studies, that's when they do it at the end. And that also alleviates that tagged fish getting netted a second time. So I thought that was pretty fascinating. So it's going to be sometime around mid-April, I would think. Where'd I go? Jed says Cedar River that flows to the Mississippi, but the section he was in was multiple dams upstream from the Mississippi. Okay, interesting. Have I ever fished a Tisco? Yes, I have. Years ago, back in those days, a good friend of mine had a camp on the east side of a Tisco, about halfway, and we used to go up at night in the spring and cast off the causeway there and catch some good walleyes right there. And I used to bring my drift boat once in a while and go row around. Would catch some walleyes there in the evening, and even catch a couple of big browns during the day. Okay, so Kevin Fetter says, do you think the warmer winter and conditions of the lake that the walleyes will be staging early for spawn. I asked that question today, and they said it would have to, things would have to warm up so drastically that for them to go earlier. They didn't seem to think it was going to make any difference, and that it has been cold enough, that the water is cold enough that, like I say, unless we had a really, really fast warming, mild March, there's not going to be much difference in the time frame. You know what's funny? I love when you guys are having conversations between yourself in the comments. That makes me smile. I like that. That's what we're all here for. It's not just me; it's everybody. You know, and I can tell you, the people that are in the comments every day, we have a collection of incredible people and excellent fishermen.
I already have a Vermont vacation planned this summer.
I saw that. It's not with me, but she's going to Vermont with Jim Wildbrookies. Real nice.
Well, obviously you didn't finish reading the comments
I know.
because you're in there.
Oh, God. Oh, Mike, you're asking me, what is this question you're asking me? Do you think you could ask them to spread out the collection period to expand on the genetics? I got to stop and think what you mean there. So you're saying that if you spread it out, that the early spawners or the earliest spawners may not be the highest genetic quality, and that the later ones may be better somehow. That's interesting. Sure, I'll ask anything. But I'm going to ask that question when the time comes to see if there's, because I wonder, like, how many different waves of spawning fish do you think there would be? Is it just hey, if when one goes, they all go? I mean, I know things don't normally work that way, but that would be interesting to see as to which one would be, well, like you said, not better, not worse, just not all the same. I understand that, but I wonder if they would place any value on that. That's interesting. Have you got confirmation that Oneida Shores will be opening their campsites for the Derby? I have not. I do have a call out to the new director. Have not heard back yet, though. John Karnowski, evening, neighbor. Getting to know some good people out here. Yeah, absolutely, Jim. Absolutely. I'll tell you what, Jim. If you for 1 second said, "Hey, I'd love to come out and fish Oneida this year," I'll bet you 10 people on here be like, "Oh, come on, let's go, jump in my boat." And I know that because last year when my boat broke down, and God, early June, we weren't hardly even a month into the season, and it broke, and I was out fishing on my jet ski every day. And I had people that I'd never met before coming out of the woodwork to offer to take me fishing, to offer to let me use their boat without even them being in it. So I guarantee you that would happen in 5 seconds. That fishermen are pretty awesome people. Gary Walters, is it true Courtney is doing the second half of show tonight?
Sorry, I'll be quiet.
No, I don't think that's why. Well, I don't think that's what he meant. I think that he's like, get rid of the hairy guy and you come over and do the show. No, Gary, she's not doing the show. Girls can't fish. Sheesh. I made it before you finished. There's a joke there, Bill. I'm not going to say it, though. Oh, Kevin, you're welcome, buddy. Corinth. Where the hell is that? Well, Stevens way up north. You're up between Lake George and where was that? I was fishing Scroon up that way. Wonder if the genetic variation is important. I feel like a Nida walleye have spawning and habitat behaviors that are unique and could be a genetic component. Possibly. When is the website going online? Well, originally I thought it was going to be yesterday and then today, and so I'm going to say tomorrow. But we got to be close, Jeff. I'm waiting on one last piece of information. Like I say, we got the new logo done today finally. Fucking Mike's sitting at home in his shop, from the sounds like, drinking hard ciders because he's now reached his quota.
Maybe I need a hard cider to clear this out.
Yeah. Rick Menzel, just don't bring her breakfast late anymore. Oh, I know.
Right, Rick?
I know. Yeah, seems evenings work. I agree. There's 50 people watching right now. That's awesome, man. I love you guys. And we're at 40 minutes. If anybody's got any more questions, right. Well, Jim, you're not wrong. When I do it first thing in the morning, like I say, especially Monday through Friday, I know most everybody's working, and I know that if you are watching, it's probably more listening than watching, and I also know that. And listen, I've been a boss, I've been a worker, so I know that I wouldn't really be able to if I was watching this while at work, I wouldn't be able to interact a whole lot because I would be working. So, I think maybe we'll keep doing this for the non. Oh, you meant that's why he's more talkative. I misread that. I thought he meant that's why everybody's more talkative in the evening, because we got a lot of conversation going. Like this is, I think that's got to be the most ever. And like I say, 50 people watching right now at the same time. I think that's the most ever. John and his pickleball, right?
Ask him how much weight he's lost.
Oh my God, he's probably like, John, how much weight have you lost playing pickleball all winter long? 20 pounds? Of course, he drinks like a fish after pickleball, so maybe that puts the weight back on him. I don't know. Well, like I say, guys, I mean, we're at 45 minutes. If anybody else has any more questions, I'll gladly field them. Again, I'm hoping the website to go live. I sound like a wascally wabbit. I hope the website goes live tomorrow. Wednesday, we are going to start selling. I've got some interesting things with ticket sales. We have some things to hopefully entice people to buy their tickets early and to get in. We have a bunch of prize giveaway drawings that we're going to be drawing off the ticket number on your Walleye Fest ticket after you buy it. And the only way you can get into it is to buy a ticket to the Derby. And I've got a bunch of cool stuff to give away. I have it broken down into 9 weeks. 9 different giveaways. So if you get in and you buy your tickets on Wednesday, that means for the next 9 weeks, every week, when I draw the name, you got a chance to win. And again, there's some cool stuff, not just fishing stuff. There's some other stuff, but there is a lot of fishing stuff that you're going to be able to use at Walleye Fest. So John Karnowski, Burroughs is down in Florida. He's a trader, and leaves all of us up here in the wintertime and goes down to beautiful sunny Florida, plays pickleball all day, chases his wife around, poor Linda, and then comes back and then cherry picks off of all of us to come back and go fishing every day for a couple months. Then he heads back down there. So yeah, Chris, I get it. I get it. Will we be notified when the site goes on? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. If everybody's signed up for the mailing list, I've been waiting. Everything's still trying to come together. And until I have the website live, I can't do the mass mailings that I want to. So I'm hoping the website goes live tomorrow. I haven't seen my web designer in the comments yet, Mark. So although I think he's damn near done. He's waiting on me for a last piece of information, and I'm waiting on that from my partners, and we're waiting on that from somebody else. So it's coming. It's just a matter of it getting here, but it will be. So okay, guys, I think that'll do it. Like I said, thanks everybody for tuning in. We're gonna. I'm not sure what tomorrow will bring, but we'll do something tomorrow, and we'll go from there. I love talking to all you guys. And girls. Sorry, I know there's girls on here.
Yeah, after you insulted them that they can't fish.
Yeah, it's only a joke because fishing is the ultimate level playing field because those fish don't know or care or have any clue who's on the other end. Doesn't matter. So even though I like to say girls can't fish, they really can. All right, everybody, I'm out of here. Have a great evening. Keep your tip up.